This place stands among the greatest geological marvels on our planet, the Great Rift Valley. Stretching over 6,500 kilometers across Africa, it forms a vast scar with the East African Rift running through its core. Its sheer size makes it visible even from space. At first glance, it's a land of breathtaking beauty, serene lakes, rolling plains, and towering cliffs. But hidden beneath this peaceful landscape lies something far more dramatic. This region sits on one of the most restless tectonic zones on Earth. Underneath the feet of around 120 million people, immense geological forces are slowly tearing the continent apart. For over 20 million years, a massive fracture has been widening along Africa's eastern edge, passing through Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania, gradually splitting Africa into two landmasses. I am Achird, and you are watching Planet Uncovered. Join me as we uncover the powerful natural forces shaping this extraordinary region. Africa's Great Rift, where it all begins. Stretching like a scar across the face of Africa lies one of the most astonishing features on our planet, the Great Rift Valley. It's not a single valley, but an immense chain of fractures, cliffs, and basins that run for more than 6,500 kilometers. From the dry, volcanic plains of Ethiopia all the way down to the lush grasslands of Mozambique. Seen from space, it appears as a vast wound carved deep into the Earth's crust, a reminder that even continents are not as unbreakable as they seem. The Great Rift Valley is a world within a world. Towering escarpments rise sharply from the plains, forming walls that stretch for hundreds of kilometers. Between them lie long, narrow basins filled with glimmering lakes, Tanganyika, Malawi, Turkana, some of the oldest and deepest bodies of water on Earth. Here, volcanoes dot the horizon, their summits shrouded in mist or smoke, while endless plateaus fall away into dramatic valleys below. It's a landscape of striking beauty, alive with contrast, tranquil on the surface, yet hiding immense power underneath. For millions of years, forces from deep within the planet have been pulling this region apart. What we call the Great Rift Valley is actually the visible boundary of a continental breakup in progress. The African plate, the massive slab of crust carrying an entire continent, is slowly being split into two, the Nubian plate to the west and the Somali plate to the east. The line between them runs directly through this valley. Each year, the land on either side drifts just a few millimeters farther apart, barely noticeable to us, yet unstoppable on a geological scale. To walk through the rift is to stand on a living fault line, a place where the Earth's crust is stretching and thinning, where the surface quietly adjusts to pressures building far below. It's easy to be captivated by its beauty, the shimmering lakes, the fertile soil, the wildlife that flourishes here. But beneath that calm exterior lies a restless planet at work. What we see as mountains and valleys are, in truth, the early marks of a continent being torn in two. The Great Rift Valley is both a masterpiece of nature and a warning that even the most ancient land beneath our feet is still in motion. The day the ground opened, signs of a splitting continent. In March of 2018, the people of southwestern Kenya woke to an unsettling sight. Overnight, the ground had split open, a jagged chasm tearing through farmland, swallowing fences, roads, and everything in its path. The fissure stretched for kilometers, its edges sharp and raw, exposing layers of ancient rock that had lain buried for millions of years. At first, many thought it was the result of heavy rains, erosion carving into soft volcanic soil. But as the crack widened and the land continued to shift, it became clear that something far more powerful was at work. Eyewitnesses watched as entire sections of highway collapsed into the widening rift. Farmers stood helplessly beside fields that had been split in two, the earth they had worked for generations now divided by a deep, silent wound. No one knew what to make of it, a sudden reminder that even solid ground can move when the planet decides to. Within days, geologists and seismic experts arrived to investigate. They set up instruments, measured the displacement, and compared satellite data from previous years. Their conclusions sent a ripple through the scientific community. This was no isolated event. The fissure had formed along a fault line that perfectly matched the course of the East African Rift, the massive tectonic boundary slowly dividing the continent. What had looked like a freak incident was, in truth, a glimpse of a much larger process. A process that had been unfolding quietly and relentlessly for millions of years beneath the surface. The ground in Kenya hadn't simply cracked, it had revealed the living pulse of a planet in motion. Each split, each fracture is a whisper of the immense tectonic forces reshaping Africa from below. And though these movements are almost imperceptible to us, the rift continues to widen, a slow, unstoppable reminder that one day this land will no longer be a single continent, but two. Beneath the surface, the forces shaping a new ocean. Beneath the calm surface of the African landscape, something extraordinary is taking place. A slow, unstoppable movement reshaping the very foundation of the continent. Far below the soil, beneath mountains, lakes, and savannas, the Earth's outer shell, known as the lithosphere, is in motion. This shell is not a single solid piece of rock. Instead, it's broken into vast slabs, called tectonic plates, that fit together like a giant, imperfect puzzle floating atop a softer layer of molten rock known as the mantle. These plates are constantly shifting, driven by the heat escaping from Earth's interior. Where they collide, mountains rise. Where they slide past each other, earthquakes occur. And where they move apart, something remarkable happens. New land is born. These places, known as divergent boundaries, are where continents begin to split and oceans begin to form. Across Africa, this very process is underway. The African plate, once thought to be a single stable block, is in reality two massive pieces gradually pulling away from each other. To the west lies the Nubian plate, and to the east, the Somali plate. Between them runs the East African Rift beyond human comprehension. What we see today as a tranquil landscape of valleys and lakes is in fact the front line of Earth's continuous transformation. And to truly understand how these forces came to be and why they're now tearing at the heart of Africa, we have to travel back through time to the ancient past of our planet's shifting continents. A journey through deep time, how continents break apart. To understand what's happening beneath Africa today, we need to travel back, far back, through the depths of geological time. Hundreds of millions of years ago, the face of our planet looked nothing like it does now. There were no familiar continents, no recognizable oceans, no Africa, no Americas. Instead, almost all of Earth's landmasses were fused together into one enormous supercontinent, Pangaea. Pangaea stretched from pole to pole, surrounded by a single vast ocean called Panthalassa. For tens of millions of years, it remained whole. But deep beneath its surface, the same forces that are now pulling Africa apart were already stirring. Heat from the planet's mantle built up beneath the continent, causing the crust above it to swell, fracture, and eventually split. A great rift opened, separating land that had been connected for eons. Molten rock began to rise from the depths, filling the gaps, cooling, and hardening into new crust. This process marked the birth of something new, an ocean. The crack that once tore through Pangaea would widen and deepen over millions of years, eventually becoming the Atlantic Ocean. The coastlines of South America and Africa, which fit together like puzzle pieces, are the lasting evidence of that split. What was once a single supercontinent had begun to drift apart, its fragments carried slowly away on the moving plates of the Earth. It's a cycle that has repeated throughout Earth's history. Continents merge, then break apart, then drift and collide again. Every ocean on Earth began as a narrow rift, just like the one running through Africa today. It starts with tension in the crust, followed by volcanic eruptions and fissures that widen over time. Eventually, as the crust thins and drops below sea level, seawater floods in, creating the first outlines of a new ocean basin. Then, as molten rock continues to push upward along the boundary, new seafloor is formed, a process known as seafloor spreading. If we could look back 180 million years, we'd see the early Atlantic exactly where Africa's Great Rift stands now, a stretch of land being pulled apart by invisible forces, dotted with volcanoes and deep valleys. At first, the rift would have looked like a scar across a vast plain. Then, as time passed, it would open wider, filling with lava, then water, until it became the vast ocean we know today. The same pattern, the same slow rhythm of creation and destruction is unfolding again right now, this time beneath the soil of East Africa. The plates are moving, the crust is stretching, and the future ocean is already beginning to take shape. What happened to Pangaea is happening again, this time in Africa. Fire below. The role of magma and mantle plumes. Beneath the dry deserts of northeastern Ethiopia lies one of the most extraordinary places on Earth, a region where the planet's inner fire rises dangerously close to the surface. This is the Afar Triangle, and deep beneath it burns a vast superheated plume of molten rock, the Afar Hotspot. Here, the Earth's crust is being attacked from below. A column of magma, hotter than the surrounding mantle, rises upward like a slow, powerful fountain of molten rock. As it reaches the base of the crust, the heat and pressure begin to weaken the solid rock above it. Over millions of years, this relentless upward force pushes and stretches the crust until it begins to tear apart. What happens here is not a sudden eruption, but a quiet, continuous struggle. A battle between the weight of the continent and the fiery energy of the planet's interior. The result is unlike anywhere else on Earth. The Afar region is one of the hottest, driest, and most geologically active places on the planet. It sits at the intersection of three diverging tectonic plates, the Nubian, Somali, and Arabian plates, all pulling away from each other at once. This triple junction makes the area a natural laboratory for understanding how new oceans begin to form. Across this otherworldly landscape, volcanoes rise out of the desert floor. Among them stands Erta Ale, one of the few volcanoes on Earth with a permanent lava lake. Its glowing surface churns endlessly, a window into the molten heart of the planet. Nearby, fissure eruptions stretch for kilometers, pouring rivers of lava across the barren land. Each eruption tears the crust open a little more, creating new fractures and filling them with fresh basalt, the same material that makes up most of the ocean floor. This process, heat from below forcing rock to split and magma to rise, is exactly how ocean ridges are born. In fact, what's happening in Afar today mirrors what took place beneath the Atlantic Ocean hundreds of millions of years ago. In Iceland, a similar mantle plume feeds the mid-Atlantic ridge, where Europe and North America drift apart. The same pattern repeats in the Galapagos and in the Red Sea, where young rifts have already filled with seawater. If we could peel back the surface of the Afar Depression, we'd see the beginnings of this transformation. The crust here has thinned to just a few kilometers, far less than in most continental regions. Magma seeps upward through fractures, cooling and solidifying into new rock that slowly builds a ridge beneath the land. It is the embryonic stage of a future ocean floor, a proto-ocean ridge forming in real time. From above, it may look like an empty wasteland, but below lies the blueprint of a new sea. The Afar Hotspot is Earth's great experiment in motion, proof that continents are not static and that the same fire that once tore Pangaea apart still burns beneath our feet today. The Rift's living laboratory, studying the split. Across the sun-baked plains of East Africa, quiet instruments are watching the Earth move. From the outside, the landscape seems frozen in time, vast stretches of desert and scattered volcanic ridges. But scientists know better. Hidden beneath this stillness, the planet is shifting. Over the last few decades, researchers have transformed the East African Rift into one of the most closely monitored geological zones on Earth. Across Ethiopia and Kenya, a network of GPS stations dots the landscape. Each one constantly measures its position to within a few millimeters, tracking how the land itself drifts apart. From space, satellites pass overhead, comparing radar images taken months or years apart. When the data is combined, a remarkable picture emerges. The ground across this region is moving, spreading outward by a few millimeters every year. That may not sound like much, but over millions of years, it's enough to tear a continent in two. The technology goes deeper still. Teams deploy seismic sensors that listen for faint vibrations beneath the surface. By measuring how seismic waves travel through rock, they can map magma chambers, underground reservoirs feeding the region's volcanoes. Drones soar over steaming fissures, capturing 3D images of newly formed cracks and lava flows. Each eruption, each tremor, tells a piece of the same story. Africa's crust is stretching, breaking, and giving birth to something new. What makes this place so special is not just what's happening, but when it's happening. Right now, within our lifetime. One researcher described it perfectly. We're witnessing continental breakup in real time, something usually invisible to human history. This collaboration spans borders and generations. Scientists from Ethiopia, Kenya, and global geological institutes work together, sharing data and field observations. They trek across lava fields, install sensors in remote valleys, and monitor volcanic tremors from high-altitude research stations. Every measurement, every graph helps decode one of Earth's oldest mysteries: how new worlds begin. For most of our planet's history, the splitting of continents has been a story told only by ancient rocks. But here, in the East African Rift, that story is unfolding before our eyes. A living laboratory where the forces that once shaped the oceans are shaping the future again. The birth of a new ocean, a glimpse into the future. 50 million years into the future. The world looks familiar, and yet profoundly different. Where today there are deserts, valleys, and salt flats, the heart of Africa has opened wide. A shimmering new ocean stretches between two landmasses, the Somali Plate to the east and the rest of Africa to the west. It's the culmination of a process that began millions of years earlier, deep beneath the soil of Ethiopia and Kenya. In this imagined future, the rift that once split open the savannas has widened into a vast ocean basin, thousands of kilometers across. The Somali Plate has drifted away, carried slowly but relentlessly by the movement of Earth's mantle. The Afar Depression, once a scorched desert, now lies buried beneath deep blue water, the birthplace of a new ocean floor. What once cracked volcanic terrain is now transformed into fresh basalt seafloor, spreading outward as magma rises and cools, just as it did when the Atlantic Ocean was born. The outlines of the continent have changed forever. The eastern Horn of Africa, including Somalia, parts of Ethiopia, and the coastal lowlands, has become a chain of islands and peninsulas, much like the Arabian Peninsula today. Inland seas have flooded what were once high plains. New coastlines curve through what used to be the Great Rift Valley. Ancient mountains now rest beneath the waves, while new volcanic islands dot the surface, glowing red through steam and ocean mist. From above, the planet has gained something monumental, a sixth ocean, slowly but certainly carved by time. The boundaries of nations, mountains, and ecosystems have been rewritten by forces that never rest. The landscapes that once carried giraffes and acacia trees are now home to coral reefs and deep sea life. This is evolution on a planetary scale, a transformation that unfolds not in days or centuries, but in epochs. And yet, even in this distant vision, the story remains familiar. The same tectonic forces that split Pangaea apart, that opened the Atlantic, that shaped the Pacific, are still at work, patient, tireless, inevitable. Every crack that once opened in Kenya's farmland, every tremor that rippled through the Afar Triangle was a whisper of this future to come. It's a humbling reminder of our place in time. For us, continents seem eternal, fixed and unyielding. But to the Earth, they are merely moments in motion. The continents drift, collide, and divide again, sculpting the face of the world over and over. In the end, the creation of a new ocean is not a violent act, it's a quiet one. It happens not with crashing waves, but with heat, pressure, and deep silence. It rises not from storms, but from the steady breath of the planet itself. A new ocean is coming, not born of water, but of fire, time, and silence. Life and people on the rift, living on a moving continent. Across East Africa, life unfolds along one of the most dramatic geological frontiers on Earth. Here in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania, millions of people live atop a continent that is literally being pulled apart. Villages sit at the edges of towering cliffs, roads cross ancient lava fields, and lakes glimmer within the scars of the rift itself. This is the Great Rift Valley, not just a geological marvel, but a living, breathing home. The same forces tearing the continent in two have also created landscapes of extraordinary beauty and abundance. The rift's volcanic soils, rich in minerals, make the surrounding lands some of the most fertile in Africa. Farmers harvest crops in the shadows of volcanoes. Cattle graze in green pastures nourished by ancient ash. Even the volcanic lakes, with their deep blue hues, sustain fisheries that feed entire communities. But beauty and danger live side by side here. The ground occasionally trembles, subtle reminders that this land is restless. Cracks can open overnight, splitting roads and fields. In places like Kenya's Suswa or Ethiopia's Afar, steam seeps from fissures, carrying the unmistakable scent of sulfur. Volcanoes like Old Donyo Lengai, the Mountain of God, still roar to life, spreading fine ash over the plains. To live here is to live with the Earth's heartbeat beneath your feet. Yet, life adapts. From the people who farm along the escarpments to the wildlife that thrives in the rift's lakes, existence continues in rhythm with the shifting ground. Lakes Tanganyika and Malawi, born from rift depressions, host ecosystems found nowhere else. Ancient fish species, delicate coral-like formations, and deep waters that hold secrets millions of years old. They are reminders that creation and destruction often flow together. For those who call the Rift Valley home, the land's movement isn't just a threat, it's part of life itself. Generations have learned to read its moods, to find opportunity in its upheavals. Because even on a continent that's slowly splitting apart, life finds a way to hold on. This is not just a place where Earth changes shape, it's a place where people and nature evolve alongside it, together in motion. Earth's endless cycle, creation through destruction. What we're witnessing in Africa is not the end of something, it's the beginning. The Earth, ever restless, is doing what it has always done, tearing apart to create anew. To us, the deep cracks and trembling ground may look like destruction, but in the grand timeline of our planet, this is renewal. Every ocean that exists today, the Atlantic, the Indian, the Pacific, was born the same way, in fire and fracture. From continents torn open, from magma rising to meet the sea. The Great Rift is simply the next chapter in that endless story. A story of creation written not in ink, but in molten rock and shifting crust. The same process that once split Pangaea, that once flooded the Atlantic basin, is unfolding again, right beneath our feet. And though we may never see its completion, its rhythm continues, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. It's easy to think of Earth as fixed and finished, but it isn't. It's alive, reshaping itself with every heartbeat of the mantle below. Continents drift, collide, and divide again, sculpting new worlds for future life to inhabit. Someday, millions of years from now, new generations will stand on unfamiliar shores, the edges of a young ocean that was once the heart of Africa. They will gaze across its waves, unaware that beneath them lies a story of fire, fracture, and rebirth. A reminder that even the solid ground beneath us, the mountains, the valleys, the continents themselves, is never truly still.